For this hardware unbox video, we are, for the first time ever on the channel, going to review a graphics card from a company called Galax. Who's Galax, you ask? Well, originally they were known as Galaxy Technology. They're a Chinese company that were founded back in 1994. And, as you guys have probably guessed, they make graphics cards. Now, the European viewers will probably recognise today's product, as it does sell under the KFA2 brand in Europe. For the rest of the world though, we have the Galax brand name, and I have to say their products are becoming increasingly popular here in Australia. On hand today, I have the very smart looking Galax GTX 1070 X-OC Snooper in white. Yeah, it's actually the extreme overclocking sniper, of course. Well, the name is quite interesting, but more importantly, so too is the graphics card. There isn't much in the package if I'm honest, but that's okay. We don't need any gimmicky high bandwidth SLI bridges or a cheap mousepad, for example. Ultimately, what we really want is an affordable GTX 1070 packing as many cool features as possible. This is exactly what the extreme overclocking sniper delivers. Priced at just $430 US or $600 Aussie, it's not a great deal more than the most basic GTX 1070 models, yet it's a hell of a lot better. First, let's take a look at the design of the graphics card. This being the white version, we do have a really nice white glossy fan shroud here, complete with a pair of 100mm fans. Now, the fans themselves are semi-transparent, which provides a very eye-catching effect thanks to the embedded white LED lights. The fans themselves are designed to be as quiet as possible, and like many modern graphics cards, during periods of idle or light work, they don't actually spin at all. In fact, the GPU needs to reach 45 degrees before the fans will turn on at all. I should also note that the white fan shroud is crafted from aluminium and is reasonably thick, so it won't bend easily, especially when handling the graphics card. There's even a crown shape etched out at the end of the shroud, and that's kind of cool. Moving around to the back of the graphics card, we do find more white glossy goodness thanks to a rather large backplate. This is another creatively crafted bit of aluminium that protects the card while also ensuring optimal heat dissipation. Of course though, the most important feature of all can be found here: RGB lighting. Enhancing the lighting effect is a clear plastic strip that runs the entire length of the graphics card and is illuminated by numerous LED lights. Now, by removing just a few screws, the large cooler can be separated from the PCB, giving us a look at the goods underneath. Here we find a custom designed PCB featuring numerous high quality components. There's an adequate 5+2 phase power design, 5 phases for the GPU and 2 phases for the GDDR5 memory. We also find an 8-pin PCIe connector along with a 6-pin connector. Galax has also installed a small aluminium heatsink over the VRM chips, and this is actively cooled via the 100mm fans above. Of course, the fans are primarily there to cool that massive aluminium heatsink, which has been upgraded with 4 nickel-plated copper heat pipes. Extending out the top of the heatsink are 2 8mm thick heat pipes, while an additional 2 6mm pipes head in the opposite direction. In total, the graphics card weighs 870 grams, which is reasonably heavy. Half of that weight, of course, is accounted for by the heatsink. We have seen GTX 1070 and GTX 1080 models weighing over 1 kilo, so again, there's nothing too extreme here. The heatsink, though, does feature a copper base insert, and there are a number of high-quality thermal pads. Overall, the build quality and design of the Galax GTX 1070 Extreme Sniper is top-notch. But just how good does it look powered up? Well, for that we need to install it in a system and load up the Extreme Tuner Plus software. The software works well, you can set any colour you like, and you can even input a custom RGB decimal code. The option to set effects such as breathing, cycle breathing and strobing is possible, and you can even set the speed. Of course, should you not enjoy bright flashy lights, they can be left static or disabled entirely. As you might expect, overclocking is also a big focus of this software. For novice users, you can quickly apply a mild 3% or 5% overclock. Meanwhile, for advanced users, you can manually set the core and memory clock speeds, along with the power and temp targets. Additionally, it's also possible to raise the core and memory voltages. Okay, so let's talk overclocking. We have tested quite a few GTX 1070 graphics cards now, and we have found them all to be quite similar in terms of overclocking performance. In fact, it doesn't really even seem to matter which model hits the highest base clock. Due to the way GPU Boost 3.0 works, the cards that run the coolest generally deliver the best performance. Keeping that in mind, the Extreme Overclocking Sniper hit a base clock of 1795 MHz, which should see it boost to at least 1923 MHz. Throughout our testing, we saw it maintain a clock speed of at least 2078 MHz, which is slightly lower than some of the cards we've previously tested by around about 3 to 5%. The GDDR5 memory also clocked to 2650 MHz, which isn't bad, but again, not the highest figure we've been able to achieve. Please note, I have only tested 3 games, as this review doesn't really require more. For more extensive testing on the GTX 1070, please check our large benchmark reviews that generally cover 20 or so games. The games included are also a bit dated now, as I can't update data for cards such as the Asus Strix, for example. This is a graphics card I no longer have, as Asus don't seem to understand the value of leaving hardware with reviewers for ongoing testing. Anyway, here we can see that the Galax Extreme Overclocking Sniper roughly matches the Asus Strix model, and is a fraction faster than the Gigabyte Extreme Gaming. Still, with just 4 FPS separating the various board partner models, and the margin of error being like 1 to 2 FPS, it's fair to say they'll deliver much the same performance. The Extreme Overclocking Sniper is able to match the Strix card in Far Cry Primal, and this is really true for the Gigabyte Extreme Gaming as well, as it was just a single frame faster. Finally, we have Star Wars Battlefront, and again, the Extreme Overclocking Sniper sits alongside other custom GTX 1070 graphics cards that we've tested so far, as it produced an average of 90 FPS at 1440p. When it comes to operating temperatures, the Galax Extreme Overclocking Sniper managed to stay below 70 degrees even when overclocked, so that was impressive to see. Performance wasn't quite as good as the MSI Gaming X or the Gigabyte Extreme Gaming or even the Asus Strix models, but given the price, which sees the Galax model considerably more affordable, it's an impressive result. It's well worth pointing out that the Extreme Overclocking Sniper is extremely quiet. Even when overclocked, I couldn't actually tell if the fans were running or not without a quick visual inspection, so this makes the temperatures all the more impressive. For the power consumption figures, we see that the Extreme Overclocking Sniper isn't as aggressive with voltages as, say, the Gigabyte Extreme Gaming, and we see that even once overclocked, power consumption doesn't increase that much. Overall, pretty typical stuff here. So, the Galax GTX 1070 Extreme Overclocking Sniper has a really long name, but it's also a very cool looking graphics card that stacks up very well against the competition. The key thing to note, of course, is the price. At $600 Aussie, this Galax GTX 1070 is very competitive. For the most part, the MSI Gaming X and Asus Strix models, for example, cost a little more at $640, and the Gigabyte Extreme Gaming is priced even higher at $670. With the price in mind, the build quality, design, features and accompanying software are all very impressive. Obviously, if you have a white themed build, then this graphics card is going to look right at home and complement the system very well. For example, it would look absolutely stunning in my Thermaltake the Tower 900 build. As my first look at a Galax graphics card, I have to say I am very impressed with the GTX 1070 Extreme Overclocking Sniper. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, then please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more exciting content shortly. I'm your host Steve, see you again soon.